What's up, motherfuckers? Yesterday in San Luis started a match between Kasparov and Anand in the Fisher random modality, and I'm going to comment all the games. This video specifically is only to analyze the initial position, because, of course, this is a Fisher random chess, 96, 960, that the people used to say, or freestyle. But it's not like a normal initial position, the pieces are in different squares. So sometimes it was so difficult to choose how to start. And there are many options and every possibility are new. Um, and so let's analyze the initial position. First, when I saw the position, I thought about g4. That's my that's the move that I would play if I play this position. The idea of this move was just open the bishop. Of course, I'm going to analyze more, I know, but that's my initial impression of the position. Both players chose e4 in the because the match was each day two rapid games and two blitz. Both players in his two games with white, they chose the move e4 to open the game, and one player analyzed before the game with Caruana and the another with Rosen Ray. So that's not only the idea e4 of Kasparov and Anand was from Caruana and Robson too. But okay, the first move that I want to show us was G4, who well, the machine likes so much, and that's the move that I first thought when I was the position. Usually in freestyle chess was so important to open your bishop, and especially when they are in the corner. Used to be so important to start open the bishop. Because especially here there are no so important central moves. Or So that's why I choose G4 like my favorite move, and the machine like too. Okay, let's understand a little bit how I should place the pieces in this position. Okay, first was good open with G4, and then if we can, a good placement of the pieces could be this pawn to D4, this pawn on F4, and this pawn on E3, and the knight here. That could be a good placement of the pieces, and if our opponent gives us the option, that's good. For example, if d5, let's offer the central responses. d5, here simply f4. Now control e5 and white is fine. Now we open both bishops. We have the e5 square control. We open the file of the rook. Now I thought that was more or less simple that here white is good. For example, if e6, now we are going to play the PC like I told you before, followed by knight c3, e3, f4. That's the plan of the position. Okay, and let's see the another central move. It was one of the important responses. And after e4, e5, sorry, we should challenge the center with d4. Good move. Because after e takes, queen takes, here, knight c6 can be responded with bishop takes c6. And after d takes, the endgame was so fine for white. The principal problem of the black position was the e8 bishop. You have no good square here. If maybe this bishop was on c8, would be okay, acceptable position after d6 f5. But here white is better in this endgame. And if black takes with the b pawn, simply control the center and white is fine because this bishop cannot be developed because d6 you take the bishop. The bishop on e8 was so strange too. Black have no easy way to develop the pieces. And I put to the machine the move knight c3 to watch if blacks can play d5, but here d5 is a losing move. After simply castle followed by e4, white is completely winning. After knight c3, the best move was knight h6, defending the bishop, and now black is ready to play g5 or g6. And that's why if black cannot play knight c6 because attacking the queen because we take, simply he should play d6, but now we play f4 or knight c3 and white is fine. Um, it's too important in general in chess games to have more central pawns than your opponent. So that's we always try to break the center. So you didn't let that your opponent have more central pawns than you. And here, for example, 93 was an option too. And now, like I told, try to have more central pawns than your opponent. We break with f4, trading a bishop. In this time, it's not bishop, but I pawn to a central with a central pawn. And d6 is d6. Sorry, e3 was the move, and now the plans are f4 or d4. So okay, we see that what happened if after d4 blacks want to play in the center. But what happened if blacks reply the white move with d5? Here, okay, d4 was possible too, but I prefer a little bit knight c3, more quiet move. And let's see if black still copy white. In freestyle chess was you always with white you should answer yourself what happens if your opponents make the same move like you. If you have a good answer or not. Usually you should have a repli in one moment with a breakthrough. If you didn't have a breakthrough and your opponent can make the same move like you, the position is so equal. So if your opponent copy your move, you should have a breakthrough. Okay, knight c3, knight c6, e3, and again, if black is still copying white, here the idea was knight h3 followed by f4. For example, knight h6 here, bad move because f4, and if f5, f4, the same. All the time the idea was e3 and the breakthrough with f4. Okay, for example, if bishop takes here, we take with d, e5, and here again the breakthrough d4, and queen d3 is possible too. And if here black plays e5, that's the same like always, knight g2, d6, and here again the breakthrough with d4, or break with f4, and white is fine. And what happens if black copy, but not too much, only with d6, only one step? Here cannot exist more the breakthrough with f4, but now we are going to place the pieces like the pawns like I say at the start of the video with d4, d5, and here we have two ways, but both are so similar. e3 followed by the 4, placing the 4 pawns well, or just knight c3, e6, f4, knight h6, h3, f5, e3. That's the normal placement of the best placement of the pieces. Knight d7, knight f3, knight f7, and e4. So that's what could happen after d4. But for me, it was strange that the players don't play this move. Maybe because they not used to play a freestyle chess so much. But for me, this move in freestyle in that specific position was so logical. Open the bishop, and apart, it's not only open the bishop. That after analyzing only by heart, I didn't find any black good move to challenge g4, and the machine say the same like me. Okay, now we are going to analyze another possible moves in the first move. Okay, we saw that after g4 in many lines, white plays d4 and e3. So let's analyze if what happened if white start with e3. Okay, e3 was a good move. For example, black could play. Black had many options here. One was f5 and g4, g6. I thought that black is fine here. He opened the bishop and he opened the rook. So I thought that, and he with the f pawn covered the e4 square and more or less the center. So I thought that black is fine here. d5 here wasn't the best move. Of course, you have f4 and d4. That's the other move. e6 and f4. f5. Okay, let's see that black is copy white. And here white have two options to change the things. One was like always a breakthrough with before, and to avoid the symmetrical, white have another interesting move attacking a piece. Is to avoid the symmetry, you always have two options, or breakthrough or attacking a piece or a pawn or something like that. Bishop before was fine here. That's a theme that next happen in the game all the time. The rook is too weak against this bishop move attack. For example, here if g6 g4, like in the past. And then this can transpose. And if g5, we can play g4 too. Okay, but e3, in my opinion, start with only pushing a move upon only one move. I don't like so much. I prefer to start the game pushing a pawn to squares. Apart, a thing that I didn't comment with the move g4 is that always after black plays knight f6, you always have g5. And this bishop cover the d5 and e4 square, and the knight in the corner is going to be bad, and apart is going to be attacked with the queen. So apart of everything, g4 stops so well this g8 knight. Okay, let's see if if white start with d4. Who is possible? d5 is not the best, but I want to analyze more the symmetries. What's the more typical response with black? Knight c3, knight c6. And here we should make the same like always. e3 or e4. Maybe g4 first. e6, e3, g5, symmetry, and here how to break the symmetry. Knight h3 and f4, like always. Or if h5, the same. Always the idea was knight h3 and h4 to play against g5. Okay, now we are going to analyze the move e4, who was the move employed by BC Anand and Gary Kasparov in the four games. I personally I don't like this move, and the machine doesn't like to. Um, okay, let's understand why they play e4. Okay, logically they want to control the center, who always was useful in a game. But in freestyle chess they are a little bit less important. Sometimes you can control the center with the bishops or with the knights. Because in the classical games was difficult to control the central pawns only with the knight because for example the d point have the help of the queen to advance. Humbly now. Yeah. Okay, here we have the queen on d8 and the knight on b1, so we can show the same. In a game, if you open with knight e3, you are not controlling d5 because you cannot take. But if you open with e4 and your opponent responds with d5, I told you about a normal game. You can take and then win tempos. So what's better to, or with d4 is controlling e5 for example. So in a classical game, when you push sorry, when you push the central pawns, first you control the opponent's central pawns, but in freestyle, okay, you can control the center with the pawns, but you can control with the pieces too. Sometimes with the bishop, especially when the bishop are in the corner, you control the center, you can control the center with the bishop. And apart, in classical chess, the bishops are in c and f5. And when you open with a central pawn, you are controlling the center and you are opening the bishops. But now when you play e4, you are not opening any bishop. To open the bishop, you should play g4. So maybe so the people on the right think that the people and the chess players play c4 and d4 in the first move to control the center, who of course is true. I'm not going to see the opposite. But maybe it was more important that e4 and d4 open the bishops than the fact that this move control the center. That's why here I prefer open the bishop than the center. It's my personal opinion. But the machine like g4 too. The machine say that g4 was the best. Okay, e4, why this move is not good? If you want to control the center, I prefer, of course, d4. What's the problem with c4? Is you are closing your bishop. That's simple. Okay, in the games, we saw two responses, e5 and e6. e6 in three games, and e5 was the response in one game with Anand with the black pieces. Okay, here, like with white, the best first move was d4, and here who was the best move? d5. Open the bishop. It's the same, but with with different colors. Okay, here black white have to move. For example, d4 was bad. Now black is fine here after d5 because black have a good pressure against the d4 pawn. After take. For example, because always if knight f3 you have like we saw before d4. So that's why d4 here was a bad move. The two way we move was f4. So interesting, sacrificing a pawn after instead of take with the rook, knight g2, e5 and g3. This type of pawn sacrifice are so typical in freestyle. And g3, f takes g3, and knight g3. And if f5, good move, take, and bishop g3. And the other good move of white was simply knight c3, and after knight c6, simply take f4, takes, and just take with the rook. Let's so d5 too, after before go with the move placed in the game. d5, just simple, you can take and knight c3, and white is fine here. It's like in so India. Okay, let's analyze the move play in the game. E5 was played once between Kasparov and Anand only, with Anand with black. After E5, Kasparov chose F4, but knight C3 is slightly better, and the machine saw an interesting idea. Knight C3, knight C6, and here queen H5. So interesting move. Knight F6, of course, winning a tempo. Knight F6 is not the best move, but okay, we should analyze, of course, because it's winning a tempo and development. And here simply or queen H3. Of course, in a normal game, this move can never be good because there is a bishop on c8. But here with the bishop on e8 and the king on c8, the queen was great on h3. So interesting idea that in normal chess never happened in the move 4. And queen h4 was good too, followed by d4 and long castle. Here a4 was good too, and d3 was another possibility. But okay, Kasparov plays f4. In this video, I'm not going to analyze the games. I'm going to make another videos to analyze the games of the match. But okay, let's see a little bit how this opening goes. E4, f4, because e4, e5, f4 was so normal too. It takes, and here again, we have this pawn sacrifice with g3. Takes, and now black should play g5, open the bishop with an equal position. Okay, but Kasparov so rook f4. Sorry, she Kasparov took rook f4. g6, okay, well, black is open the bishop, g3 open the bishop, knight c6, knight c3, and okay, white is slightly better maybe here, especially after bishop takes c3. Black should have played here on knight g7 or d6 or no, knight g7, no, sorry, knight g7 and you have queen e2. But for example, f5, the position is close to equal, and with d6 the same. The problem of bishop c3 is that just we can take with the pawn, and white is fine here. And the takes is possible too, followed by c4 and bishop c3. So let's analyze the moves that happen 3 times in the game. E3, E6, sorry, play like friends. Okay, as D4. Oh, in one game, Anand plays D3, D5, and here F4. Was It's not my favorite way to play with white, but at least you open your bishop. It's strange because first you play e4 closing your bishop and then you play g3 to open. So it's a little bit strange this way to play. But okay, the machine say that is normal. That takes. Here black have some move like g5. G5 was fine. And if knight c3, g4. Followed by f5. For example, you take the pawn, f5. Let's see that the g4 pawn controls so well this knight. And queen e2, knight f6, normal attacking the bishop. What I don't like of this line is I don't know, it's a little bit strange. Maybe what have a slightly advantage, but it's a little bit strange because all the time um, black is winning a tempo with the knight, you have more space in the center, and if black can control the d4 square, I think black have no problem. All the fight is between white can control the d4 square or black. For example, knight f6, h1 will go back to g2, f3, h1. h1 was the best here. For example, bishop b5, and if bishop f3, here c5 was bad controlling d4 because bishop f2. But curiously, with the bishop on d2, c5 was equal. The bishop b2, bishop f2 here doesn't matter. Okay, after bishop f3, the best was knight c6. Just simply control the d5 square. And g6, who was playing the game, was not bad because black is simply control the d4 square, and if if white cannot play d4, what is the white advantage? So for the reason in 8 move, Kasparov reached a fine position with completely equal after 94. And I prefer a little bit like here, but the position was so equal because black won the bishop pair. Okay, let's analyze the friends like they play d4, d5. In two games happened that. And here both players choose knight c3. I don't understand so well why. So I profound in many lines and I analyze more many lines to understand why the players didn't play e takes d5, who in my opinion was the most logical move. Okay, of course, queen takes was not logical because I have bishop before attacking the rook and winning the rook. So okay, queen takes is no a problem. E takes d4 will be a normal move. Here we have bishop b4, knight d7, rook e1, knight bc6. Here bishop a3 was no good. The best move was bishop c5, b6, and bishop a3. It was better to force your opponent to place the pawn on b6. And here I was in the position, I realized that why should be better here? Because have a good pressure on this diagonal and on this file. You cannot move the knight. Yeah, simply, I thought that this knight was bad played here, and the machine said that white is slightly better. Yeah. So maybe I don't. In my opinion, this position was better for white. So maybe the move that annoyed the players was bishop b5. Should be the most logical reason because the players doesn't play e takes d5. Bishop before was bad. Just simply take here and go back. And here, but here it's important to take with the queen. If you take with the pawn, can look that like this is symmetrical, but g3 and the tempo matter. Okay, it was another option, but no, the good move was bishop takes f1. But okay, here white can play knight f knight e2. He takes, and here not before copying your opponent because after rook e8, and now is black who have the pressure in the pin in the a6 f1 diagonal. But here we have some options to fight for the advantage like a4, bishop b6 and b4, and knight bc3, bishop c4, b6, bishop b6, g4. And white is slightly better here. But okay, I can understand that this move disturbs a little bit the players. But I still prefer the move it takes d5 um, than knight c3. The knight c3 I don't like. And you can play bishop before to transpose the lines that we are analyzing with it takes d5. Because now 97 was obligated and here you can take and rook e1 and we respond with the to the lines. And we are avoiding the lines with bishop b5. So maybe bishop b4 was the best move here. And both players choose knight c3, in my opinion was a strange move. Okay, it takes d4 was the normal, knight takes, and here Anand employed bishop b5 and Kasparov employed bishop c6. Uh, the machine prefer bishop b5 either way, but bishop c6 when I saw online, I think that I thought that like it's fine here. And the only move to fight for advantage was queen d3. So this thing say that uh, white is not so comfortable here. G3 you have the problem of f5 and this bishop on x1 is 95 takes and now the result is. So that's the problem of G3. F3 was playing the game was so strange because I was telling that you should play G4 to open this bishop and you play not you didn't play F4 and apart you play F3. You put two pawns and a piece in the diagonal who goes the bishop. So of course here black is better in 5 moves. The problem is that Kasparov goes with 97, who is strange. Here the plan was just open the bishop. G6 was good too, after 92 e5, that was an interesting option. Just open the game using the fact that the bishop is trapped on h1 and you, are, you have more development. Or f5 was good too. And the other option for white, knight c3 can looks normal, but black is fine after knight f6, of course. And queen d3 was the only move to fight for advantage. knight f6, and here g3. Okay, but this is not so much advantage for what. That's slightly only, but it's slightly better only. And bishop b5, who was the other move employed by Anand, was so interesting too, 92. But here g6 was the best move. Attack, just open the bishop. Anand play 96 with the obvious idea of take this pawn. But Kasparov have many interesting ways of sacrifice the pawn. He sacrificed the pawn, but in a so bad way. But he can sacrifice in interesting ways. Okay, first, Kasparov simply can play c3, defending the pawn, and white is fine. But here, black have many interesting options. For example, knight f6 was the best move. Here, knight c5 was the best. But I like e5 when I saw the position. d5 here, bishop takes e2 was bad. Queen takes queen d5, and here, of course, you cannot castle because queen e2, but with just open the bishop. Sorry, with open the bishop with g3 and g4, or with b4. Sorry, or with b4 and white is fine. And f5 was possible too. Knight c5, queen d6, knight b7, king b7, queen b3, knight b4, c4, a5 takes, and after bishop c3, again white is slightly better. Okay, that's what happened if black simply defend the d4 pawn. But white can sacrifice in many ways. For example, e3. If you take the rook, bishop b4, and white is winning. No, white is winning here. No, sorry, white is better. Sorry, I don't remember the correct evaluation. Okay, g6 was the best move, just c3. And if bishop e2, yes, here the position is really weak. And after queen takes, knight takes, just queen d3, and okay, why white is winning? Of course, black have a pawn up, but this bishop is open. This bishop not. White have the bishop pair, and especially white have more development than black. And now white is playing long castle, placing the rook great on the one, and with all his pieces great place. And this king have a no safety play because this bishop is prepared to attack b7. Aiming was the aiming was the correct name. Uh, and yes, simply white is better. And a4 was another interesting way to to sacrifice the pawn. I saw in many freestyle games that when the rooks are on the rook file, the players play a4, a5. Was so typical in early moves, more than in the classical game. Because like I told before, the center matter less. Because okay, in classical games, apart the king is staying in the center. In this type of games, the king is not used to be in the center. In a normal game, if you can play a pawn on e4 and the another on d4 was great. In freestyle, sometimes not the best. For the reason the rook pawn moves are so typical in freestyle. Okay, a4, bishop takes 94, and here queen d3, and white is slightly better. 97, we move g4, 96, trying to trade queens, trade, knight g5, and white here recover the pawn after f6, knight takes, and rook d6. But okay, the move employed by Kasparov is just completely bad. Now black have two good ways to win a pawn. One, just knight takes d4, knight takes, and bishop takes f1. But okay, here I can understand that white can have a small compensation, but generally it's not so much. The only move to compensation with knight takes b7, but here okay, king cannot take because d3, but here after queen d5, knight a5, and long castle, black is better. But okay, Anand just played bishop takes e2, queen takes, and queen d4. And here the only move to steal in the game was queen e3, queen d5 on castle, but okay, black have a pawn up. Okay, apart Kasparov play queen c4, and that's a piece. So that's my analysis of the initial position of the first day of the match between Kasparov and Anand. I'm going to analyze the first game of yesterday. So let's saw the videos of my analysis of the game. Bye bye.